The Brooklyn Nets were terrible this year, so bad in fact that they should be picking third in this upcoming NBA draft. But instead, they have 0 picks, not just in the first round, but in the second round as well. And then even next year, they'll only have 1 first round pick, and it's going to be the less favorable of theirs and Houston's. And then if I understand this right, Houston also has some sort of swap with the Clippers, so I don't know how that factors in. You know, these pick swaps are really getting out of control. I can barely wrap my mind around it. But yeah, the Nets are going to have some kind of least favorable pick next year. So that being said, basically the Nets are in the worst position that you'd want to be in. They are a bad team that doesn't own their first round pick, so they're not getting the benefits of being a bad team, and they don't currently have any players that you could point to and say, those are the guys that we're developing right now and they're going to take us to a new level. Other than maybe Cam Thomas. And that's why I say the Nets need to tear it to the ground. Trade everyone who can get you any sort of picks. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. Nick Claxton's going to be a free agent. Dorian Finney-Smith might be able to get you a couple seconds or something. But like anyone who can get you picks, except for maybe Cam Thomas, send them out. Get those picks. However, I'm scared what the Nets are going to do instead is re-sign Nicholas Claxton, which I don't mind if they re-sign him with the intention to trade him down the line for picks. But if they're just re-signing Nicholas Claxton to run this team back, I think that's a very poor decision for the Nets. Because let's think about this. Even if that goes the best way it possibly could, let's think about how that might look. So they re-sign Nicholas Claxton, right? And then they actually have a pretty good defense because they have a lot of competent defenders on the team. Cam Thomas is on fire. Mikal Bridges is playing pretty good. And they sneak into the play-in tournament as like the 10th or 9th seed. And then they would probably get eliminated in the play-in. And now they're kind of in the same position, except at least Ben Simmons is coming off the book, so that's $40 million that you don't have to worry about. And then depending on how the salary cap changes, I don't know when that TV deal comes into play. You know, maybe you'd have some room to sign a decent player, but no one who's really going to change the direction of your franchise. And any way you look at it, if they try to keep this team the way it's currently constructed, they're just going to be treading water as a pretty bad to mediocre team. And that kind of brings me to one of my biggest gripes about the Nets, is that they're not just a bad team, they're a bad team that's not fun. And by that I mean, there are bad teams because they are young, they are building around their young pieces, they are trying to fit them together and develop them and build a coherent team around these young guys that at least have a direction. The Nets, however, have no direction. Their team has no identity. It's just a couple guys who are like, you know, decent at basketball. Obviously, they're amazing at basketball. I mean, decent in NBA terms. Because as long as Mikal Bridges is your best player, you're really not going to have any substantial success. And that's why, even though you don't have your valuable picks, I think you'd still benefit the most from tearing it down now, getting as many picks as you can, and trying to start some sort of rebuild, get some sort of direction, at least have a fun product that you can sell to the fans and be like, look, this is the direction we're going, as opposed to now where it's kind of just like, we have Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges might be an all-star. If that's what you're banking on, nothing good is going to come from it. Now, this brings me to where I wanted to talk about Zach Edey. And you might be wondering, didn't you say the Nets have no picks? How could they get Zach Edey? And you're right. With the way the Nets are right now, they have no shot at acquiring Zach Edey. They would have to trade into probably the first round, late first round. No one really has any idea where he's going to go in the draft, but I would say maybe the mid first round. With the way that some teams are kind of trying to trade out of it, I think getting a mid first round pick is something that they could do. Maybe for a guy like Cam Johnson, or even in a Mikal Bridges trade. Now you're probably wondering, why Zach Edey? is he really what the Nets need? And I can't promise that he'll be great. I can't promise that he is what they need. But when you think about Zach Edey, he's one of the most polarizing prospects we've ever seen, only because of the time we're in now. You know, if this was the 90s, he'd be top 5, top 3, maybe even top 1 pick in the draft. But the way I see Zach Edey being in this league, the only way he'll be more than a pretty good backup center is if he goes to a team that can afford to give him a lot of minutes at the center and run a lot of their offense through him and give him the reps and give him the time that he needs to become a player in this league. And when you look at most teams in this league, I don't think there are many teams at all that can do that. I would say number 1 is the Nets, and that's because they have absolutely no direction. So why not go get the 7'4" guy out of Purdue, let him hoop in the post, see what he can do, see if he might just be a giant-shaped diamond in the rough. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's sort of a bust, but at least you took that chance and are going in a direction, trying to take a swing at something more than being extremely mediocre. The only other teams that I think even really have any sort of room to possibly give Edey the kind of development that he might need is maybe the Washington Wizards. Maybe he could do something there. That might be a weird fit, especially if Kuzma and Jordan Poole are still there. And then I don't know how they're feeling about Marvin Bagley, if that's still where they want to put their stock in at center. So I don't love the fit in Washington, but, you know, maybe they could do that because Washington is another team that doesn't have that much direction. And then the only other team that I really think about is the Raptors. And now they do have Jakob Poeltl, and Jakob Poeltl's a good center. And, you know, he might be in the way of Edey, especially if they're just trying to compete. But that could be an interesting spot for Edey to land. He is from Canada after all, so that's another little fun tidbit there. So he'd be playing in his home country. Maybe they could clear the way. Maybe they trade Poeltl. Maybe Poeltl takes on more of a bench role and they move him at the deadline. I don't know. But getting Edey in there maybe could fit around RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes. I don't really know how that would fit together. Maybe that's not a good fit now that I think about it. But what I'm really saying is there are not a lot of places that are good fits for Zach Edey. And the Brooklyn Nets are the one team that I look at and I think that could actually be a really good fit for Zach Edey in this league. Now, if you're the Nets ownership or whatever, I think you would really like this because clearly you're not trying to win basketball games because your team sucks and you're not doing anything to move in a direction away from that. So really, this will put people in seats. Everybody wants to see Zach Edey play. People are going to want to see this guy play in the NBA. They want to see what he can do. And you'll be providing that for them. And look, say whatever you will about him. Maybe he won't be a great player. I'm not even so sure he will. I'm not convinced that he's going to be a great player, but I do think there is at least that chance that he does. There's at least that chance that Zach Edey goes on and becomes this really good player that, you know, a lot of us were doubting if he could really hang in the NBA. And this is the way that we can at least see if he can. Because no matter what, that hook shot will play. 7'4", smooth hook shot, that'll play in the NBA. So yeah, I see this as a low risk, potentially high reward because the Nets suck anyways. And this way, at least you have the slightest chance at striking gold in the 7'4" Canadian out of Purdue. You'll get a lot of people tuning in on League Pass to see the 7'4" Zach Edey playing with the, lightning in a bottle Cam Thomas. That would probably be one of the funnest, worst teams in the league to watch. That's not even to mention to clear room for guys like Dariq Whitehead to get some minutes, get some development in. But yeah, overall, that's my pitch for the Brooklyn Nets. Trade everyone you can to get any sort of picks. Try to use one of those picks to get Zach Edey. And even if you can't get Zach Edey, I still think getting the picks is the right way to go. There are a lot of teams that would want Mikal Bridges, and you could get valuable assets for him. Even Cam Johnson to a lesser extent. and maybe even Dorian Finney-Smith to a much lesser extent. Whether you sign Nick Claxton or let him go, if you re-sign him and in the draft you get a guy who's not a center, Nick Claxton is only 24, so he's not the worst fit. He could potentially stay there long term. He is a good quality starting center, I think. But if you do go get a center like Zach Edey, then you could trade Nicholas Claxton for other picks down the line. The only problem with trading Claxton is that a lot of teams kind of have their starting center set. I don't know how many teams are really in the market for him, maybe the Thunder. Anyways, I know it's not a perfect plan. Far from perfect, in fact. But the Nets are in a really bad position, so what more can you really ask for them to do? There's no quick fix. There's no perfect solution. They're in a position where almost anything they do will probably be in a swing and a miss, and I think this is at least the most fun and potentially the highest upside swing and a miss that they could take, if that makes any sense. And maybe I'm wrong, but I do think a lot of Nets fans would agree with me that tearing it down and getting picks, whether you use them on someone else or not, maybe they don't want Zach Edey, but getting picks, I think, is what most Nets fans would want for this team. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, that's all I really had for you guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, maybe like and subscribe. It really helps me out, and it means a lot to me. And that way you guys won't miss the next video. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun getting back into the swing of things here. And I'm having a lot of fun making these videos. So I'll see you guys later. Peace.